So, welcome back, friends. I am with you all after a very long time. I know I have not spoken to you all for a very long time, and various other reasons which were not in my control. But today, I have decided that I'm going to come back to you with a complete series on the Inspiring Ambedkar. As you all know, the book Inspiring Ambedkar, which was released last year, did extremely well, my friends, and it's your all support which made it a very successful book. So, as you all know, friends, Ambedkar's history has been completely buried. It has been completely buried, and the legacy of a great man has been washed away from the history books, so that his fight for the scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, OBCs, and even the minorities. And I have been recently seeing that many people are projecting Ambedkar as Islamophobic, but the fact is that he also fought for the rights of the Muslims, so, and even the Christians. So, a man who stood for distributive justice, he can never be against Muslims. So there are various narratives which have been propelled by various organizations, various historians, and then basically to fit their own ideologies. So what I did was, I did a detailed research for 2 years, and then I came to and I documented in my book Inspiring Ambedkar on every aspect of why Ambedkar's legacy is very important and it cannot be left behind. And it's a sad thing that even today we have very little things which even our kids like SC ST OBC kids also learn very little about Ambedkar. Let me give a small example. If you take the Indian National Movement written by Bipin Chandra, which is a book prescribed for UPSC, Ambedkar figures in one line in the entire book, that too in the Pune Pact. Pune Pact, friends, was actually orchestrated by Ambedkar. So, but in that he appears in one line somewhere in the corner, and even in the NCERT books, Ambedkar has been relegated to a place which he does not deserve. So I decided that I will document this, and then I have documented it, and this book has done extremely well. Last year the first edition has been completely sold out, and then this year I am planning to release the next edition, an updated edition with various other topics which I missed out in the first edition. So probably on April 14th I am going to release this. But my friends, today I am going to place before you a topic which is very, very important and which I have discussed in my first book in chapter number 26, Ambedkar and Savarkar. See, I am holding my book Inspiring Ambedkar, and then where in detail I discuss whether there was a sync between Ambedkar and Savarkar, because nowadays, my friends, there are many books which have come up which tells that Ambedkar was a friend of Savarkar. Ambedkar attended functions which Savarkar organized. Ambedkar attended movements where Savarkar also participated. So, and it has been projected as if Ambedkar and Savarkar are actually friends. So, my friends, there is a real difference between Ambedkar and Savarkar's model of emancipation of Dalits. So, first, in one point, I am going to tell you what is this difference. Like, for example, see, if you see Gandhi, Savarkar, all of them had one model for emancipating Dalits. So what they told was, see, let us allow Dalits into the temples. Let us allow Dalits to have education. But when it came to reservations, my friend, that is reservations in higher education, reservation in public jobs, and more importantly, political reservations in the parliament, in the legislative assemblies, at the state level, they told no, it should not be done. It should be done only by merit. Otherwise, government efficiency, administrative efficiency will be affected. So, for this, Ambedkar was dead against this, dead against both Gandhi and Savarkar on this ideology. I'll just tell you what he probably might have told, and even in some of his speeches he mentions this, that see, many people tell that you will allow the Dalits into the temple. So what he mentioned was, okay, let us assume that you allowed them. Okay, let all Dalits go into the temple. And after they come out from the temples, what will they do? What will they do? Can they go to the schools? Can they go and sit in the classrooms? Because that time, in that era, scheduled caste kids were not allowed to sit in the schools. They were made to sit outside. They will see through the windows, the classroom. So that kind of segregation was there. And then he told, okay, will you give some jobs to us in the public services? Will you allow us to work? Because in that era, again, the untouchables were not allowed to enter the government jobs. Not even Group C, Group D jobs they were allowed. They were restricted to only a menial occupation of manual scavenging, safai karmachari, etc. But the remaining jobs where education was needed, they were not at all there. So Ambedkar was very clear that, see, it does not matter if they go to the temple. That probably is one of the rights which they may require. But more important right is that you need to give them representation. There is something called distributive justice. See, you are collecting taxes from everyone, and then that money should be used for development of everyone, and then every individual in this country should be having a stake in their decision, in their welfare. So it should not be allowed to be dominated by few. So Ambedkar was correct in that aspect. And then this is where the difference between Ambedkar and Savarkar comes about. So a lot has been told, my friends, in the last few days, that Ambedkar is this, Savarkar is this, but nobody talks about any evidences, nobody gives us any historical evidences, hard evidences to prove what their actual ideologies were. Now, I want to ask you only one question. Did Savarkar support any kind of reservations for SC ST OBCs? Is there any evidence where he has supported any kind of reservations? Like, there is a book by Vikram Sampath, Savarkar Part 2, A Contested Legacy. In chapter number 2, he talks about what Savarkar has done for untouchables. Okay, so he mentions that he went and allowed, he did interdining, he sat with them, ate food. Then he also tells that he went and fought for temple entry. Then he also distributed sacred threads to the untouchables and conducted Vedic ceremonies on them. And he also mentions that he supported Ambedkar's march to Chavdar tank, also called Mahat Satyagraha. So, he also invited Ambedkar to the opening of a temple called Patita Pavana, which were a temple exclusively for untouchables. Remember, my friends, Ambedkar was dead against this segregation. So if you build a temple exclusively for untouchables, which were exclusively for untouchables, you would have never gone to that temple. So remember that. So the kind of narratives which have been propelled against Ambedkar, it's sad to see that a man of that stature has been discussed in such lowly by few people. So today I am going to show you how Savarkar actually never supported any kind of reservation for SC ST OBCs. He never supported. So, for example, my friends, see, there is a variety of area on which Ambedkar and Savarkar differed. So, the first thing is that Savarkar had a concept of Hindutva and Hinduism. He also told three words: Hindutva, Hinduism, and Hindudom. These three words which he used. And Ambedkar categorically demolished all these things in his writings. In page number 132 to 148 of this volume number 8, you can see this. So if you go there, you will be able to see clearly his views which were completely against this. So I'm not going to discuss about that because that is not very important, because I'm more concerned about what were Savarkar's idea about political representation, then educational representation, public service job representation for the SC ST OBC, because that is what is important. I am not really bothered about religion. See, let them have various views, but what were these views? That is more important for us. See, my friend, equality means different things to different individuals. See, as I read about Ambedkar, I realized that Ambedkar was a great realist, my friend. So you will never come across such a great intellectual as Ambedkar, and then modern history has not given the rightful place to him. See, I'll just mention many of my friends also, and then you would have heard this logic that why do you need reservations? Why do you need reservations? You can take education. We'll give free education to SC ST OBCs. Once the education is given, you compete in the exams, you come on your own by merit. Why do you want this reservations? So my friend, Ambedkar argued against this. I have never seen any such argument given by anybody till date here. So what Ambedkar told was, okay, you tell that you will give education. See, 80% of India is SC ST OBCs. Now, if you are going to give free education, do you have the money in your budget to give free educations? Will you give quality education to these kids? Or if you give education to the kids, till what level will you give? Will you give till 10? Will you give till 12? Or will you give till graduation? So, and his words are so perfect. And he argued that, see, you will never be able to give this education, because in a country like India, which is so big, you will never have the budget to do all these things. And he mentions that is the reason why you have to give reservations for these kids. And then see, and he mentions that, see, India is a very peculiar place. Like, see, here you see segregation, like, for example, if you go to Bangalore city, my friends, Bangalore city or Chennai, all along the railway tracks, you will see Harijan colonies. Why they did not come into the main areas? Like, for example, there are areas like Malleshwaram, Basungudi in Bangalore, and then Chennai also there are prominent areas like Gopalapuram. So in these areas where the upper caste is to live, you will find good English schools. But in these Harijan colonies all along the railway tracks, you will not find good English education. So there was a social segregation which was put in place. How it came about, nobody knows, but it was there. And then Ambedkar told that there is social segregation, and then our kids never get access to good quality English education. So when you don't get good quality English education, and if you dump our kids in some stupid vernacular schools where they don't learn anything, will they be ready to compete for examinations? So Ambedkar argued for all these things, my friends, that is, reservations are a way to give distributive justice to this category of people who have been denied for centuries. So anyway, my friends, so Ambedkar also realized that these people were talking about merit. But the reason why they were talking for merit is that they did not want to give access at the higher education. They did not want to give access at the government jobs and even in the businesses. So what happens is that once you create a myth that these fellows are not fit enough, these fellows are completely excluded from all these things. And he understood how merit creates inequality. He fought till the end, my friends, that reservations are the only way out for the SC ST OBCs. And then there are various evidences to show that the various memorandum which he submitted to the British government, right from the Round Table Conference. Round Table Conference, he goes and gives a memorandum, my friends, which has all the points which is there for the scheduled caste today in the Constitution of India. Finally, he executed it. See, in 1921, he started that. And then he executed it till the end, 1951, he implemented it. So, this is the guy, Ambedkar. He was not a guy who will just tell, he will deliver. So, this, I don't know why people compare him to Savarkar. And then, my friends, the first important argument against Savarkar, okay, he is found in his own writings. Ambedkar himself has written about Savarkar. So, this is the most funny part. And then all other historians who tell that Savarkar and Ambedkar were friends, they'll never talk about Ambedkar's own writings. So, this is the tragedy. So, today I am going to talk about this. So, what happened is in his book, I think Pakistan and Partition of India, I think so, I forgot the book name. So, in that book he talks about Savarkar in details. So, in that this is the snapshot which I have taken from that writing, and you can see that he talks about Savarkar. So, what is to be the position of the non-Hindu minorities under the Swaraj as contemplated by Mr. Savarkar? So, he mentions that when on this, what Savarkar has mentioned, when once the Hindu Mahasabha not only accepts but maintains the principle of one man, one vote, and the public services to go by merit alone, added to the fundamental rights and obligations to be shared by all citizens alike irrespective of any distinction of race or religion. So, my friends, here you need to understand a little bit. What is this one man, one vote? See, Ambedkar all along fought for separate electorate. Separate electorate is a system where the representatives to the parliament will be given by the minorities itself. Otherwise, what will happen? Like, for example, if you take this concept came about because of majority Hindu population. That is, once the Hindus are there, what will happen? The Muslims, who are a minority in many places, they will not get sufficient representation in the parliament. So, the Muslims started demanding for separate electorates, telling that they have to be, their representatives should be elected by their own community, not the Hindus, because if the Hindus elect, they will never get elected. So, this was the concept, and then Savarkar was completely against this separate electorate system, while Ambedkar wanted separate electorate system for Dalits. Because what he mentioned was, see, if everyone votes apart from the scheduled caste, like for example, if you take a constituency where 30% population is there of scheduled caste and the remaining 70% is other Hindus. So, what will happen is, in that kind of a vote scenario, the will of the Hindus will be more important than the scheduled caste. Scheduled caste people will never be able to elect a rightful candidate. So, that was his idea. So, he advocated for separate electorates for Dalits. And even for Muslims he advocated. So, that is there. It is not that he did not tell Muslims should not get. So, he advocated for that also, and he had campaigned for getting effective Dalit representation in the parliament. Like for example, he had told there should be reservations at the cabinet level, which is not approved. Like for example, at least 2 to 3 people should be from the scheduled caste. So, this is where he got into a fight with the Muslim League also, because always they used to give more cabinet ministers to the Muslims, but a scheduled caste nobody. So, in one of his article he mentions that that scheduled caste have probably more population than the Muslims, but we are so unfortunate that we don't get sufficient number of cabinet ministries at the center. So, he attacks the government using that. But contrary to this, my friend, Savarkar was completely against separate electorates, and he was also against separate electorates for Dalits. But one important thing which separate electorate was settled during the Pune Pact, even Ambedkar agreed that joint electorates with reservation is probably the way out, because his vision also more or less it stuck with that. But one of the more important worrying factor which many people don't discuss is that Savarkar opposed reservations of any kind, and he mentioned that public services should be filled by merit alone. My friends, Ambedkar had demolished the principles of merit and established a convincing argument for introducing reservation for SC ST OBCs. And I have to tell you that it was Ambedkar, and before Ambedkar and Savarkar, Ambedkar almost every time he had got into a conflict situation in the Hindu Mahasabha. Hindu Mahasabha earlier, because was also it also represented the views of the Hindus in the Round Table Conference. So in the Round Table Conference, which happened in 1931 to 1932, when P.S. Munji was the president of Hindu Mahasabha, he attended along with Ambedkar, and P.S. Munji circulates a memorandum in the Round Table Conference. And my friends, you must see that memorandum. I have discussed that in my book, which is The Battle for Strategic Position, that book. So in chapter number 6, where I give a detailed analysis of how dangerous that proposals were there, and in that Hindu Mahasabha clarified completely that they are against reservations of any kind. So even for SC, ST, OBCs, everybody, they were not at all in favor of this. Like, for example, I'll tell you, my friend. So the Hindu, I'm reading from page number 149 of my book, where Hindu Mahasabha, how Hindu Mahasabha, he was different with Ambedkar. So you can see this. See, Ambedkar, this is on issue of reservation in public service. See, Ambedkar, in his memorandum, he had proposed a clause 10, which mentioned that all recruitment to public services would be made through the Public Service Commission, and a fair representation of various minorities consistent with efficiency and necessary qualifications should be done. Now compare this with Congress proposal, which was completely against Ambedkar, my friends. So clause 4 of the Congress proposal mentioned that appointments shall be made by non-party Public Service Commission, which shall prescribe the minimum qualification and have due regard to the efficiency of the public service, as well as the principle of equal opportunity for all communities to have a fair share of the public services of the country. So clearly, my friend, Congress recognized merit is the main criteria. Now let us come to Hindu Mahasabha. What did they think about Ambedkar? Hindu Mahasabha also added that public services should be made by commission only on consideration of highest efficiency and qualification available for any particular service, thereby securing the twofold object of maintaining the services at high level of efficiency and level opening fair field of competition among all communities. It stated that minimum qualifications will not make for efficiency. So they were dead against the minimum qualification. Ambedkar always told that, see, you put some minimum qualification, relax the qualification, take people in from SC, ST. But Hindu Mahasabha told that no. You have to get the best guy, like you have to, there can be no relaxation in the qualifications. So, it mentioned, I'm going to read from their memorandum what they mentioned. This is the Hindu Mahasabha B.S. Munji's memorandum. So, what he mentioned about reservation in public service. We cannot afford to put up with less efficiency in our Swarajya than at least what prevails at present under British responsibility. But if we aspire, as we should, to have our Swarajya prospering in competition with that of nations of Europe and America, we ought not to think lightly of efficiency, even with the object of placating this or that so-called backward community. Consideration, therefore, of maintaining efficiency in administration at the highest possible standard makes it obligatory to demand the highest necessary qualification from those who offer themselves for recruitment to public services, irrespective of consideration of caste or creed. It also made it there would be no promotion or superstition in recruitment at any level. So you can see that, my friends. So not just at the recruitment level they told, even in the promotions or anything they told that it should be only based on this thing. So see, it's a fact that Gandhi never wanted to give any reservations of any kind to particular classes. But even the Hindu Mahasabha and B.S. Munji and then Savarkar were against any kind of reservation in public services. So the worst thing, my friends, what Ambedkar was very, very annoyed, I have to tell you that, while Gandhi was not ready to give it to depressed classes, the separate electorate, he agreed to give it to the Muslims. So it is annoyed. He told that, see, you are not ready to give it to the depressed classes, the SC ST, but you are ready to give it to the Muslims. So how is it correct? So Ambedkar was caught in this huge dilemma, what he should do, my friends. And this is where I wanted to tell you that that it is not that much as what people talk about, like Ambedkar and Savarkar so easily, but Ambedkar is the only person who fought for reservations for SC ST OBCs right from 1921 to 1951. Now I'll tell you, my friend, there are other things which Ambedkar and then Savarkar and then Hindu Mahasabha had this. Now Ambedkar proposal clause number 7, my friends, mentioned that cabinet should include Muslim communities and other minorities in considerable numbers. So he was telling that both Muslim minority and depressed classes should be included in the cabinet. Clause 5 of the memorandum provided that the interest of minority communities would be recognized, but it did not mention which minority and how many. This was opposed by first Hindu Mahasabha in the first roundtable conference, stating that it is the prerogative of the chief minister to form his cabinet, and he or she cannot be forced to choose one particular minority. So both Congress and Hindu Mahasabha did not agree that minorities should be adequately represented in the cabinet. So they opposed Ambedkar on this point. Then again, Ambedkar, clause number 8 in his proposal, he stated that there should be one separate department for handling all the affairs of SC ST minorities. Again, Congress and Hindu Mahasabha did not agree with this. So they were dead against this. Okay, so now one more important thing is that Ambedkar always wanted to respect the dignity of the scheduled caste community. So he worked on how to integrate it in the fundamental rights. So because he abolished untouchability using a fundamental right, you remember, in the constitution. So but in the Ambedkar's proposal, he had given clause 1 and clause 2, which, like I'll just read out clause 1, which mentioned, no person shall by reasons of his origin, religion, caste or creed be prejudiced in any way in regard to public employment, office of power or honor, or with regard to enjoyment of his civic rights and the exercise of any trade or calling. Clause 2 mentioned, statutory safeguards shall be incorporated in the constitution with a view to protect against enactments of the legislature of discriminatory laws affecting any community. This is the anti-discrimination laws or the atrocities laws, whatever we are talking about. So he wanted one clause on that. Ambedkar also wanted clause 3, which recognized full religious liberty, full liberty of belief, worship, observance, propaganda and education. Clause 6, he mentioned enjoyment of civic rights. Now, my friends, here there is serious difference between Ambedkar and the Hindu Mahasabha. See, Hindu Mahasabha mentioned that there should also be a right to enjoy civil and economic rights when owning landed state. However, they did not tell specific to any minority. Hindu Mahasabha also wanted provisions where there could be complete recognition of merit, that is, no reservation in recruitment to public service. They demanded the following clause to be introduced. My friend, you listen to this clause, what they wanted. No person shall be under any disability for admission to any branch of public service merely by reason of his religion or caste. Membership of any community, caste or creed should not prejudice any person for purposes of recruitment to public services or to be a ground for non-admission, promotion or supersession in any public services. So clearly they did not want to recognize caste-based reservations. So this was one of their proposal and they wanted to be included in the fundamental rights. So what I am telling you is that the Hindu Mahasabha always opposed reservations for SC ST OBCs, and that is very clearly coming out in various evidences which unfortunately has not been documented by many, my friends. So now I am going to go in detail, like to show you real actual evidences what Ambedkar and Savarkar have done for SC ST OBCs. Like for example, this, my friends, like see, I will just give you a small hypothetical story to understand what probably may be the difference in mindset of Savarkar and Ambedkar through a small Savarkar-Ambedkar test. I will also call this Ambedkar-Savarkar test. I have also written something on Ambedkar-Gandhi test. So whenever you want to understand what is the difference between Ambedkar and Savarkar, you can apply this test directly. So imagine both Savarkar and Ambedkar met sometime. They actually never met face to face. So that is what is the real thing. But imagine a fictional story where they met and then Savarkar mentioned to Ambedkar, like, we have done amazing work at Ratnagiri. We have built a temple exclusively for untouchables. We have also arranged interdaining among various castes and also working towards inter-caste marriages. We are working towards removing untouchability. We share the same thoughts that all public places, amenities should be open for all untouchables. We would like you to come and open the temple, which is the first temple that will be open for all caste Hindus. Ambedkar probably would have replied like this, my friends. Removing untouchability or temple entry alone is of no consequences to scheduled classes. I read your recent articles in Kesari. You oppose the caste system, but you defended Chaturvarna as a scientific system based on merit. Actually, he had written an article, Savarkar had written an article telling that Chaturvarna is fine, it is a scientific system based on merit. Then Ambedkar would mention, I would suppose you want all public positions in government to be filled by merit. That you still use the jargon of Chaturvarna, although you qualify it by basing it on merit, is rather unfortunate. I would be more interested in knowing how many seats the scheduled caste will get in political space. It is important on how many strategic positions in government are given to scheduled classes. As you know, scheduled classes are not allowed inside the classrooms, they are segregated. We need to have a common education system to scheduled classes. So my friends, you see, the ideas of Ambedkar emancipation for scheduled caste is completely different from ideas of Savarkar and then Gandhi's. So to tell that they emancipated Dalits is next to nothing. Their model was only a proxy. They wanted the help of because they know that SC ST OBCs are a huge population, so they will take the help and then they will somehow dilly-dally and then do something. Now from this you can summarize that Ambedkar wanted a reservation while Savarkar, Gandhi and others were opposed to the idea of reservation, my friends. They wanted to reform the Hindu religion by removing untouchability and allowing low caste Hindus into temples, but they were strong proponents of merit. When it came to education and government jobs, they would vehemently argue that merit should be the sole criteria or nothing else. This is where Ambedkar differed from the rest. Ambedkar was a man of equal representation, my friends, and he realized that the disadvantaged should occupy strategic positions in government so that the contextual problem faced by them could be gauged and solutions could be found. He mentioned that I prefer an inefficient equal government to an efficient unequal government. So, this is one letter, my friends, which we have found where Ambedkar has written directly. You can see this. So, this is a letter written by Ambedkar on 18/2/33, and this is documented in the book Letters of Ambedkar by Dr. Surendra Archanath. So, in this letter, actually Savarkar writes to Ambedkar inviting for a temple which was exclusively for the untouchables. Like actually, if you go through the Ambedkar's philosophy, Ambedkar was always against segregation. Like for example, if someone builds a separate school for only SC STs, a separate temple for SC ST, he would oppose it. He will tell that, see, everybody should be allowed to go in. By building these separate temples, you are actually maligning the self-respect and dignity of the scheduled caste. So he was very clear on that, and then Savarkar had invited him for opening a temple which was exclusively for the untouchables, and he probably would have never liked such a temple where he could have gone, where it was only for where only the untouchables go. It's an untouchable temple. So see, he wanted scheduled caste to be allowed in every temple. Why scheduled caste should not go into every temple? So that was his argument, and that is rightful argument also. When you can, and in one place he mentions that, see, you allow the Europeans, Christians, they also have beef and other things, but you don't allow the untouchables. So this is the kind of arguments he had placed, telling that why the untouchables cannot be allowed to every temple. So, but here Savarkar had built a temple exclusively for the untouchables. He invited him, and this is a letter written by Ambedkar, and here you can go through clearly what there is a lot of sense in what Ambedkar is writing, and you should read this thing. Ambedkar appreciated his work in the field of social reform. He agreed that you are doing some good social reform, boss. Like you are organizing interdining among various castes, you are doing temple entry movement, all this is fine. Okay. So then he mentions, here you can see this, my friend, if the untouchables are to be part and parcel of the Hindu society, then it is not enough to remove untouchability, it is not sufficient to enough untouchability. For that purpose you must destroy Chaturvarnya. You should completely abolish the Varna systems. But Savarkar told that Chaturvarna had some merit. There was some scientific basis how people are organized based on occupation. Different people are carrying out different occupations. So his idea was that, like for example, scheduled caste, if they were involved in leather work, if they are involved in manual scavenging, so that is the need of the society. Otherwise, who will do that work? So Chaturvarnya took care of this functional division of occupation among various castes. So that completely Ambedkar was opposed. Ambedkar opposed this Chaturvarnya system where he told that, like, just making few people restricting them to menial jobs without giving them education, is it correct? That's what Ambedkar's argument is. Ambedkar's argument was that let everybody have access to every kind of jobs. Based on their ability, they will get it. So, but then you mention this where it is brightened, you can see, I am glad to see that you are one of the very few who have realized it. That you still use the jargon of Chaturvarnya, although you qualify it by basing it on merit, is rather unfortunate. So he tells that although you want Chaturvarnya to go, caste system to go, but why are you demanding merit? you tell that only merit. So Ambedkar, my friends, was fighting for reservations and equal representation for SC ST OBCs. So in political spaces, in educational institutions, in private job or public jobs. So probably if Ambedkar had were alive, a lot more areas we would have got successes for the SC ST OBCs. Now again, I have already spoken a lot about Ambedkar and his differences with Hindu Mahasabha. Now there is a very detailed Indian Express article which I have mentioned here. So it is a book by Ashok Gopal which discusses about in comprehensive details about the relationship between Ambedkar and Savarkar. So Ambedkar, writing in Bahishkrut Bharat, that is one of his newspapers, on April 12, 1929, what has he said? He said the Hindu Mahasabha movement is contrived, narrow vision, lacking an ideal and diverse from principle. The leaders of the movement do not have a genuine concern for the untouchables. They have taken up the issue of eradication of untouchability only to ensure that the untouchables do not convert and thereby the population of Hindus does not decrease. So you can see that Ambedkar was always opposed to Hindu Mahasabha right from the beginning. Now again, in a brief editorial piece in Bahishkrut Bharat, Ambedkar had opposed the first Patita Pavana temple project for which Savarkar invited him. So he opposed the very idea of building a temple for untouchable. So the temples of untouchable. So I have already told this that both these ideas, Ambedkar was completely against segregation, social segregation. So he would have never agreed for a temples of untouchables. He would have told that you build a temple and let everybody come. So that is what his demands were. So to build only a temple for untouchable, or to build only build a country for untouchable. So it was not his demand. He wanted equal rights in his own country. So he wanted temples for everyone where every untouchable can go and then make a claim. So this is the main aspect, my friend. So you can see that the concept of equality for both was entirely different. Ambedkar was a man of equal representation. He realized that the disadvantaged should occupy strategic positions in government, and that is only possible through reservations alone. So, my friends, so this aspect, and apart from this, my friend, Ambedkar had huge differences on Savarkar, even on Hindutva and Hinduism. I have given you the page numbers, you can go see here. But before that, I will also take you through some evidences where Hindu Mahasabha had directly mentioned or Savarkar had directly opposed reservations. So, my friend, there is one Indian Annual Register, which is a book which publishes the various events which happened during that independence, pre-independence era. So, this is it's available in archive.org. So, I went through this, and in one of the Indian Annual Register, surprisingly, my friend, you find this. So you can see this. Mr. V.D. Savarkar, replying to a question at a press conference at Nagpur, said, "For the last 30 years, we have been accustomed to the ideology of geographical unity of India, and the Congress has been the strongest advocate of that unity. But suddenly, the Muslim minority, which has been asking one concession after another, as after the communal award, came forward with the claim that it is a separate nation. I have no quarrel with Mr. Jinnah's two-nation theory. We Hindus are a nation by ourselves, and it is a historical fact that Hindus and Muslims are two nations." So he agreed that Hindus and Muslims are two nations. But he did not stop there. So my friends, for the current day Indians, that is okay, because India and Pakistan are different. But you see the next line. Mr. Savarkar added that the Hindu Mahasabha was also willing to extend its hand cooperation to all who accept the four principles, namely territorial integrity of India, majority rule in provinces, and the center residuary powers in the center, and recruitment to public services on merit alone. So he told that, see, he will this recruitment to public services on merit alone is a very big thing. So this is where the clash happened between Ambedkar and then Savarkar, that he would have never agreed that recruitment should happen only by merit, because that is what he was demanding right from beginning, right from 1911 onwards, when he started representing in front of the South Borough Committee and then gone to round table conference. All his time he has been only representing for reservations for SC ST OBCs. So, but here Savarkar completely opposed reservations in public services. So this would have never happened. Now again, you can see this is one more evidence which is there. So which is there in this book Hindu Rashtra Darshan, which gives the speeches of Savarkar. So this is on the rights of the minorities. When once the Hindu Mahasabha not only accept but maintains the principle of one man, one vote, and the public services to go by merit alone, added to all the fundamental rights, obligations alike irrespective of any further mention of minority rights is on principle not only unnecessary but self-contradictory. So you can see that Savarkar's main thing was the recruitment should happen by merit. Savarkar openly opposed reservation and always mentioned that recruitment to government services and educational institutions should happen only by merit. The historical evidences below clearly shows that he was against merit. So my friends, so it is not so easy to tell that Savarkar supported SC ST OBC. He might have supported the Hindu cause, but to tell that he supported the SC ST OBC reservation is a big myth. Okay. So again, there were a lot of differences between Savarkar and then Ambedkar, even on the claims of Musalman, like that is the minority communities. So for example, Savarkar was highly critical of the Muslims, but Ambedkar always helped in favor of, like he argued for in favor of separate electorate for Muslims and depressed classes. Incidentally, my friend, this is one of the like for example, memorandum which was placed by Ambedkar in the round table conference. You can see he worked along with Aga Khan, who was a prominent Muslim League leader at that time. Aga Khan, Dr. Ambedkar. So like see, and he told these were the special claims of Musalmans. So you can see this. So he worked along with Muslims so that he thought that even the depressed classes will get their due. So that was his idea. So to say that Ambedkar is Islamophobic and then he worked against the Muslim community is completely different, because Ambedkar till the end he saw them as their friends, and then only when the partition happened, like when the proposal of two nation theory came, he thought that he was betrayed because he thought that they were an ally. But then what happened was they completely cut them off, and then they went into a mode of two nation theory. So that annoyed him, and he was never after that there was only a bit of battle between Muslim League and Ambedkar. Now one very important thing which I wanted to talk about is Ambedkar also opposed the concept of Hindu Raj. So for example, this is from his own writings, my friends. So you can see that the political objection to Hindu Raj rests on various grounds. The first ground is that Hindu society is not a democratic society. True, it is not. It may not be right to ask whether Muslims have taken any part in the various movements for reforming Hindu societies as distinguished from proselytizing. But it is right to ask if Musalmans are the only sufferer from the evils that admittedly result from the undemocratic character of Hindu society, or not the millions of Shudras and non-Brahmins or millions of untouchables suffering the worst consequences of the undemocratic character of Hindu society. So Ambedkar was highly critical of Savarkar and his ideology of Hindutva. For Ambedkar, who was born into an untouchable caste and experienced first-hand cruelty and discrimination of the caste system, its eradication was central to achieving equality and justice. He termed caste system anti-national and believed that true social reforms was impossible as long as this rigid and discriminatory hierarchical system persisted. Ambedkar saw the caste system not simply as a social structure, but as a religious system rooted in the tenets of Hinduism. He argued that caste divisions derived their moral authority from the Hindu scriptures, codifying an inherently unjust hierarchy based on birth rather than merit. His work, Annihilation of Caste, offers a scathing critique of Hindu social order. But look at Savarkar. What was his idea about Hinduism? Savarkar, while acknowledging the harms of the caste system, ultimately believed it could be reformed and continue to play a role in the Hindu society. He argued that the caste system originally had some merit as a form of social organization based on occupation. This is completely something which you should remember, my friend. So he supported the Chaturvarnya, but Ambedkar was completely against the Chaturvarnya. His views on caste align with the broader concept of Hindutva, where a unified Hindu identity is paramount. Savarkar advocated for loosening of caste restriction, allowing for more movement and flexibility within the system. However, he fundamentally maintained that some form of hierarchical division of labor was natural and necessary within the Hindu society. So you can see this, that the main difference is that Ambedkar never supported the Chaturvarnya system. Ambedkar was against the Varna system, but Savarkar actually supported the Varna system and he thought that it can be reformed. So this is the thing, and my friend, I have discussed about Ambedkar and Savarkar in detail in chapter number 26 of my book, Inspiring Ambedkar. And my friend, so I did this thing because see, SC ST OBC should recognize that it was only Ambedkar who has to be remembered, because he was the only person who fought for your reservations. There is no other soul in India or recorded in the historical evidences whom you can find who has fought for your reservations. Today, many of you are occupying good position, many of you are in good political places, but remember, he can